Well, I'm going to give you a simple solution as to how to get America back on track again. It's a hell of a lot simpler than you think, and it's actually using really what they're trying to do to America and pushing him back in a slow, methodical way, because there's a hell of a lot more of us than them. And it's not necessarily getting out there on the streets and protesting. I know a lot of the alternative media is constantly saying, you know, go out there and protest, give them hell, but don't riot. That's not really the answer. What they really did to destroy America, or starting to destroy America, has partially succeeded, is in creating a division between people and also destroying our values. And that does not necessarily mean Christian values. I could tell you before, and I'm going to get onto this more towards the end of this video, before Jesus Christ was born, centuries before Jesus Christ was born, there was a thing called Roman honor and virtue. Actually, a lot of our Western society is based upon this. And, you know, without even thinking of the religious element, people do know what's right and wrong. You know, this is kind of an old family show I'm showing here. It's, you know, I'm not showing any copyrighted pictures or anything, but it's something whereby, if you remember in the 50s and the 60s, the way things were, it was a lot different. Even in the 60s, only like what you saw in the major media, people look today, they look at the 60s, they think it was a time of turmoil. And yes, in some ways, but the vast majority of America was still like the 50s. What you see on the major media and what you see on TV programs and what was being pushed was the counterculture. Now, I want to say, like, one of the pivot points where America really got thrown back to a time of, you know, almost became fascistic again, or became fascistic, was with the death of JFK. You know, I know there's different personal faults with JFK. You're not going to actually have somebody that's a perfect person, but there's been so much to his credit that I could say within, you know, going back, I'd have to go all the way back to Teddy Roosevelt or somebody like that, maybe Taft or something, where we had a really good president. I would not even say Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Ike Eisenhower, or anything. You know, JFK was the real deal. He was murdered actually by, you don't have to really call it Nazis. We're actually fighting two things in this country, communists and Nazis. Even though they look like they're different sides, they're really, one's a little more fascistic, the Nazis being more fascistic, and the Communist Party's looking to underpin all their values so they can reign supreme over us as elitists. And, you know, that's pretty much, you know, you would see the hippie with the fringe jacket telling you how the world is, follow me, I'm the guy, you know, all this kind of garbage. But, you know, when you look at the way things were, people had respect for each other more than they do today. They have more respect for our institutions, our traditions, and whether they really believed it or not, everybody went along with it, and everybody actually felt better about things. It's not like they were really being coerced. I mean, when people used to go for Easter dinner, to also to Easter church on Easter, same with Christmas. Today, Christmas, like a lot of the churches, are emptier, far more empty than even just a few more years ago. And this is really why America has taken it. I don't want to get religious here. I'm telling you, there's a deliberate plot to actually steer America away from its values, and it's being done by elitists to basically, once those values are taken away, they'll have complete and total control over the masses. The counterculture has always been a part of elite strategy. You know, if you actually, you know, some people look at these earlier times and they look at them in different ways. Sometimes they think, oh, it's so quaint, it's so weird. But in a lot of ways, people were not stupid back then. People knew exactly what was up. I mean, it's like, but they had more values, they had more righteousness, more respect for each other, and furthermore, more respect for institutions, our actual culture, and what actually was right and wrong versus worshiping themselves so much. Today, things have changed a lot. Now, I know, people actually, a lot of it's evidenced by, like on special occasions like Thanksgiving or even, say, Veterans Day or Memorial Day. A lot of people just think of it as an excuse to get drunk or something. They do not actually honor the people that fought for our country. They do not actually celebrate it in, getting dressed for the occasion, taking the effort to get dressed and groomed for the occasion. There's like, everybody is more like, okay, I'm celebrating a day. And that's really how they are. They're not really formally celebrating the day. And I'm not saying, see, they always kind of made it, there was always a push to say, oh, well, you really don't need to do that. It's like, oh, just be yourself. In a lot of ways, that's not really what it's about. It's about when you make a little effort to actually show up at a place, whether it be a veteran meeting or maybe a church or something to celebrate an occasion. It has a lot more than just, I celebrated it and they made a statement, because you actually put effort into it. And actually, when you dress for the occasion, that means you put some physical effort into something that I did this because I realize what this occasion's about, and I want to look like, this is the right thing to do. I'm actually honoring what's going on during this occasion, whether it's Christmas, Easter, like one of the religious holidays, or it could be Thanksgiving, which is semi-religious, or it could be a Labor Day, it could be Veterans Day for the military, or the Memorial Day, or our 4th of July. A lot of people are not doing that, and you could show that that's actually a breakdown of our actual culture. And they've been doing this deliberately for a long period of time. The other thing is, the breakdown between the normal bonds, sort of mostly, and I don't even want to say, like, if there's a guy that likes a guy, or a woman likes a guy, girl, or whatever, fine. I mean, I'm looking at it, but the vast majority of people is heterosexual, and now it's almost like they're trying to break that down, and it's something that is unnatural to most people. It's unnatural to a few people, but, I'm not really a strict conservative in a lot of different ways, but I also realize that there's a game going on to just break down every type of value out there. But, you really can't protest against this exactly. Just take to the streets and, I hate this, I hate that, and this is wrong, and put up signs. That's BS. That's actually what the alternative media is also telling people to do. The way to actually fight this is just to do what you think is right. And it's not necessarily like to get in somebody's face and create conflict. It's actually to just do what you think is right. And if you think it's right to be heterosexual, if you think it's right to honor Christ on Christmas, if you think it's right to celebrate Easter, to honor our veterans on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, or celebrate the 4th of July, and honor our workforce on Labor Day, do it. Do it and show it. Not only just think it, but show it. And, it's a show of patriotism. Now, I know, like, when the counterculture came out, if you did not grow up during the 60s, and I'd imagine now there's probably a lot more people that have not grown up during the 60s. I could tell you this. There was a very much in the media, and not that they're necessarily outspoken counterculture. And I have to say this. The counterculture actually did have elements of stuff that was really righteous, because they recognized a lot of things in this country that whereby big money was funding our enemies, and they were just out to exploiting people and all this kind of garbage. They really did recognize some things. But the counterculture, by and large, was basically implemented by our enemies, and also not just our foreign enemies like the KGB or something, but also our internal enemies. But by and large, during the 60s, a lot of people think if they did not grow up during the 60s, They think that the 60s was a time whereby everybody was like a hippie. Wrong. That was actually the majority. The minority. The majority was actually very, very conservative for the most part, like the 50s. Not even just the older generation, but even the younger generation. A lot of the younger generation that was affected mainly by the counterculture was in the universities. And it was deliberately set that way. And as a matter of fact, if you look at Hillary Clinton, she was a staunch conservative and Barry Goldwater girl before she went to college. And then she was changed when she went there. That's the reality of the situation. She's a good prime example of it. But, it's like the media makes it look like this. But, this was all pushed by the media. It was pushed by the media. And the fact it was actually brainwashing because, there was no internet at that time. There was only television. Everybody got all their information from the major media, either through the radio or the television. So whatever they put up there, if they made it look like everybody was going this one way, there would be more people jumping in on the bandwagon because, people have that lemming mentality. If everybody likes something, a lot of more people like it. If everybody hates something, a lot more people hate it. Think of the Beatles, for instance. I don't know what the deal was, why they were that popular. But, once that craze started, a lot of people just joined in on it. And that's exactly how this occurred with that in itself. Even a lot of the music during that time was, implemented by this Tavistock group. It was a countercultural thing to break down the values of society so they could be reformed into something else. And, the thing is, when you're talking about, I'm going to protest this, well, you're not necessarily, that's not really the problem. Because I can tell you a lot of times, that's not really the solution. In other words, a lot of times people are, say for instance, I don't like Hillary Clinton, say for instance, right? And I could tell you, the stuff about Donald Trump, I could tell you he's full of it. I would probably lean more definitely towards Ted Cruz or something politically, right? But say I'm not going to get in somebody's face and say, oh, you don't like Ted Cruz and you're wrong for I'm not going to tell them that. I'm like, hey, do whatever you want, man. I could tell you people sometimes see different angles of things. Like a lot of times I'm at odds. A lot of times I'm at odds with conservatives because I think they're too damn conservative or too narrow-minded. I'm a person I guess I have a libertarian viewpoint, but I also realize what's right is right and wrong is wrong. That's all there is to it. You almost don't even need to be religious or even known religion to even know that, because people know that, and it's explained through religion, that through their Holy Spirit. They know, people actually absolutely know what's right and wrong. Most people do. And if you want to bring back America, you got to bring back its values, its institutions, its respect for its institution, the respect of the people for the institutions, not only in their mind, but also in its showing. It's like if people are more, if you see the 4th of July and everybody in the neighborhood puts up flags and, celebrates it or sets up fireworks or whatever, it just does something to celebrate 4th of July. It's a tradition that's not going to go down. If everybody's celebrating Christmas and, it's out there, it's not like I got to make a political action team and say, oh, I think Christmas should be celebrated and we need to fight you and we need to protest against you people that don't like Christmas. No, I just celebrate Christmas. That's how I show it. One of the things, though, that's a problem today is that since people have lost the values, and a lot of people have lost values, and they've lost, the honor, commitment, fortitude, self-sacrifice. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, I'm not talking like for the state. You don't want that kind of garbage. But I mean like self-sacrifice when, something needs to be done. A lot of people are very narcissistic. They're all about me, me, me. That's, to me, also, I tell you right now, the me type, I find a lot more of them up in the Northeast. Not necessarily like Maine or New Hampshire or Vermont, but like up in New Jersey, New York area, the metropolitan area, the closer, people can get mad at me for that. But I've been from that area, and I know there's a hell of a lot more of the money-me generation up there than you would find in the outlying areas, even up north. If you go up To the south, it's less like that, unless you're around major cities. But if you go up to the northeast around Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, especially Maine and New Hampshire, it's, people are really cool. And actually, the less money they have, the cooler they are too. But a lot of times, the narcissistic things have just taken over. People are into just self-worship. And, right there, that is a way whereby people, you can be controlled by the elite, because you are nothing but somebody that doesn't care about anything. You will not sacrifice anything. Herein really lies the problem, what's going on. I mean, we've always had narcissistic people. We've always had these type of things. But we've always had a lot more people that were more honor committed. And, this actually goes back to not necessarily our Christian moral values. It goes back to our Roman values, believe it or not. Now, that's not even to say it's an Italian thing, because I could say Italy today has very, very, very little in common with ancient Rome. Rome was about honor, value, fortitude, commitment to a cause. And, if we have enemies, we get rid of them. That's about what it was. That's really what it was. In the case of what's going on today, the United States has the greatest military in the world, and supposedly we can't fight ISIS. That's a joke. But that's the same kind of game that was going on during the Vietnam days. The United States could have won that war inside of like 5 weeks easily. And actually, the United States did win that war militarily. The North Vietnamese had their asses kicked. The Viet Cong were virtually wiped out during a Tet Offensive. It caught the U.S. by surprise in the beginning. And what happened after that, the major media lied about that. The Viet Cong were done. The NVA were being supplied by Russia and China, where Russia got their money from? The United States loans through and materials that came from major corporations in the United States. It was an old game. Today with ISIS, it wouldn't even be a war. It would be a live target practice. I'm serious. That's exactly what it would be. The military is totally disgusted with Obama, our narcissistic Muslim in office. And, it may have changed very much during Hillary's time. I don't know. She's probably going to be it. I'm not going to freak out about it. But I'll tell you one thing. Karma is a bitch. For people who are worried about the downfall of America, your personal decisions are karma. As a matter of fact, people who voted for Obama twice, they're going to find out it's going to cost them $965 and change a year as a fee for nothing, because they have no health insurance, and if they can't pay it, it's coming out of their ass one way or the other. If Hillary gets in office, and there are people that put her in office, karma's going to come around and get them. That's really what happens. Basically the way to fight this is really to ignore the narcissistic scums, not help them. That's really what it comes down to. Ignore all the propaganda from the major media. They do not tell the picture to what was going on in the 60s. The 60s was actually far more. In 1968, why Nixon got elected? Because he was a conservative. LBJ got in 1964 because people figured he was more like JFK, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and they figured out he wasn't. He was a load of shit. And actually, LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, hated John F. Kennedy and was probably involved in the plot to kill him, amongst a great many people, including Richard Nixon, including the Bushes, including all the people that are involved in the Bay of Pigs fiasco. Lee Harvey Oswald I don't even know if he fired a shot at this guy, to tell you the truth. I don't even know if he even fired once. JFK was not killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. We know that. That's not a conspiracy. That's a fact. And, there's so much on this If you look at your single bullet theory from the Warren Commission, go right ahead. But, you know, JFK was actually what America was about back then. I mean, yeah, he was a Playboy president, but as far as his policies and what he was going to do, he was going to bring back, sound money, keep us out of the Vietnam War, keep us at peace in this nation, you know. And, you know, one of the things he says is ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. You know, that's one thing I'm talking about here right now. That is an anti-narcissistic statement, if there ever was one. Or narcissistic is have somebody to ask what's my country going to, you know, they vote for what the politician is that's going to do the most for them. And you know what? These politicians aren't going to do for them. They're blowing smoke up their wazoos. Just like Trump is blowing smoke up people's wazoos that think he's going to build a wall or something. Get out of here, build a wall. Yeah. Probably going to build a subway. No, I'm just kidding on it. I know you're going to get people who love Trump and get mad at me, but I'll tell you, he's playing a game because he's actually just using the he's using a certain element to pull votes away from to split the opposition to Hillary Clinton. So, you know, Warren Buffett is going to be right about. I remember reading that a long time ago about Warren Buffett saying that Hillary's going to be the next president. But you know, I'm not worried about it. You know, I don't like her. I mean, I think she's a witch. But I can tell you one thing. You know, who the hell knows? You know, you think about it. Hillary Clinton at one point in time was a Barry Goldwater girl. You know, maybe she'll have a brain tumor that'll eat up her communist side and leave the good stuff that was remaining from 40 years ago. But I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. But I can tell you that she's not gonna affect the righteous as much as she's gonna affect her stupid supporters. And, you know, I can say that about the Trump supporters that are believing in him because the guy was a diehard Clinton fan his whole entire life. Now, I'm getting a little political on here, but I'm telling you something that it's not necessarily politics and getting in people's face and telling them this and that is actually going to make the difference. It's you doing what is virtuous, right, honorable, and self-sacrificing for the good than it is about, you know, hey, I'm going to protest this, I want to make a team. And, you know, that's a lot of garbage. And, you know, actually, some of the things that have been going on in this country, there's a lot more black on white tensions now and white on black tensions than there's ever been, probably. And it's deliberate through the major media, just like they push this hippie culture bullshit. They're deliberately doing this. I don't even think there was as many tensions between the races in the Old South, even back as the way the shit is going today. But a lot of it's being pushed through the major media. And as things are, you know, I can also tell you this. The KGB was highly instrumental in pushing marijuana in this country. Now, marijuana does have medicinal uses. Marijuana does have herbal uses. It has also uses as various types of medicine, big time, right? It used to be in all the medicines, you know. Cannabis was, before they passed that Marijuana Stamp Act, the biggest protester against making marijuana and hemp illegal was the medical community because cannabis was in all the medicines. And it has a number of nutritional value with hemp, and also a fuel value, you know, as a source of fuel for cars and diesel fuel and that type of stuff. But, you know, the ones that are really pushing this, though, was the KGB, and the reason they were pushing it is that it was really the worst use of marijuana, because when you smoke marijuana to excess, a lot of people become very lethargic, and they lose a lot of their ambitions. They really don't care, you know. That's what it comes down to. You get a little too mellow, and you know that's really what you want. You want soft, compliant, mellow people that are obedient and can be easily fooled. If you smoke marijuana a real lot every day, it'll screw you up. And that's really what KGB was really trying to push here in the counterculture. Now, if you look up on Google and you say look up, Google KGB marijuana, you won't come up with this information. You'll come up with KGB marijuana, you'll see kinder green buds. And the reason I could tell you right now why that's coming up is because they don't want you to know about the connections between the KGB and the marijuana, widespread use of marijuana in this country. Now, I think marijuana is actually great if it's used the right way. But I'd say 99.999% of people don't use it for freaking medical purposes or for nutritional purposes. They just smoke it to get high. And that is not necessarily so bad if they don't do it too much. I don't think it really does a damn thing if they just do it some here and there. If you do it a real lot every day, it screws you up. But that's part of the the outside elements and also the internal elements. And at the same time, you got like people like Nelson Rockefeller, making somebody who toked a little weed as bad as a murderer and putting him in jail for like 20 years or more. Why? Because he could do it, and because he's, that's something that John F. Kennedy would have never done in a million years. But John F. Kennedy basically was murdered by people that had ties to Nazis and were Nazi collaborators. For the most part, that's what he was murdered by. As much as John F. Kennedy was going against communists, he was also going against Nazis. America does have two different types of enemies, and unfortunately, it seems that the Democratic Party has been mainly taken over by communist elements, and the Republican Party has been mainly taken over by Nazi elements, and unfortunately, Donald Trump is not a third choice. Probably not going to like that. I know you're not going to like that. But I could see that guy is a Clintonite, and he's just playing a game for Hillary, and I'm pretty sure that's the way that's going to come out. But anyway, just getting right back to point A here. No matter what happens, if you stick with the actual values, some person from the government or the media or somebody is not going to get in your face because you're celebrating Christmas, as long as you're not telling somebody, you have to celebrate Christmas with you, or they're not getting in your face because you're celebrating the 4th of July. And if they do get in your face because you're celebrating Christmas, the 4th of July, you're celebrating Easter, you're celebrating Veterans Day, or Memorial Day, or Labor Day, you can play the victim all the way. And you can make them look like the freaking bad people, and very easily. They will not touch you when you're looking at positive elements. And like I said, the way to really bring back America is just to go back the way things really were. It's that simple. They led us astray piece by piece by piece, saying, oh, you really don't have to do that. And it actually broke down the fabric of what everything around us happened. And don't let those pinheads in colleges tell you any otherwise, because most of those pinheads in colleges that learn about the American ways, about independence, and that's been indoctrinated in us, and they study it from afar. They usually become officers in the military, something I never became, although I could have easily became one because I had a full college degree and several years of work experience as in high-end accounting department, and I definitely didn't go that route because, don't call me sir, because I work for a living. And I could tell you one thing with John F. Kennedy, besides being a true American that was on the side of the people, he was a true war hero in World War II. With PT 109, a lot of people tend to forget that. He saved a lot of his crewmen. Their boat was cut in half by a Japanese destroyer in the middle of the night. Blew up with a big fireball. Everyone was covered in oil. He dragged people all the way back to the shore on an island. They lived off of coconuts and got the message out through a native writing on a coconut, and he saved the men around him and himself. And, he had back problems from that time on. I want people not just to think about that John F. Kennedy was, I want people to remember that John F. Kennedy was killed not by Lee Harvey Oswald, but Nazi and communist elements in this country. But also I want people to remember what John F. Kennedy was about and what this nation was about before John F. Kennedy was killed. And that's what we need to go back to. And you know how you do that? Just do it. Just do it. You don't need to go out there in the streets and protest about it. And next time something comes up, you got Easter coming up, you got Memorial Day coming up, you have July 4th coming up, do some extra celebrations. Just like I'm celebrating a Merry Christmas a little extra long. Hey, somebody told me that I should get over it. No. Maybe you need to get over it. And I have to specifically say that because I do my own thing and you don't tell me what to do. That's exactly how it is. So I'm just telling you that we come back to our values, everything's going to straighten out, including no matter who's in office. And that, in a nutshell, is exactly how to fix America. It's a slow, methodical process to get us back, and it's simple, just the way it was a slow, methodical process to unravel everything that was built in America. We can get it back. And the alternative media, the blowhards out there screaming like, those people are working for the bad guys. I just got to warn you.